If you want a compact sports sedan, thankfully we still have a good number of them to choose from. This is Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are. My name is Jake and I'm here with this. This is the 2024 Mercedes-AMG CLA35. That is a word salad, but this is Mercedes-Benz's smallest sedan. They call it a coupe because it's got this swoopy roofline, but it's a four-door, so to me it's a sedan. Now, back when these first came out, this was kind of augmented with the Mercedes-Benz A-Class, which was much more of a sedan, but that is dead, and this is what you're going to get. Now, these have been on the market for a little bit, but Mercedes-AMG did do some magic and change things up a little bit for 2024, so they sent this one over. So let's talk about what they did. So cosmetically, there's going to be a few differences to the CLA, whether you get the most basic CLA250, this CLA35, or the 416 horsepower CLA45 AMG with the hand-built turbo four-cylinder. But this is that 35. They're all going to get different front ends, slightly different rear ends, just little styling tweaks, and they did develop new wheels. You'll see ours here has a unique 19-inch wheel that is new for 2024. Kind of an interesting look. They call it like a double spoke, I don't know. It's an interesting look. But they did do some changes under the hood as well. So that CLA45 is going to have the true AMG full-on hand-built motor, that sort of thing. And then the CLA250 is a 2-liter turbo 4 that's shared with a bunch of other smaller Mercedes products. This is also going to be that 2-liter turbo 4 that is not hand-built. This is kind of like the BMW M Sport versus the full-on M, if you know BMWs. It's, you know, this is one step down. It's an Audi S3 versus an RS3, that sort of thing. So this motor here is also a 2-liter turbo 4, and it makes the same amount of power and torque as it did in years past. So 302 horsepower, 295 pound-feet, but for 2024, it's now running on a 48-volt mild hybrid setup. So Mercedes took a starter generator combo. It's a belt-driven sort of dealie that replaces the alternator and the starter, and it basically just kind of helps smooth out your auto start-stop, and what they say is it can add about 13 horsepower on demand, which basically shoves the engine into its torque band a little bit easier, kind of eliminates some turbo lag, if you will. You're not going to add that 13 horsepower to the total engine output, which is why it's still rated at 302. Now, all of the power and torque is fed through an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. It's not a torque converter automatic, and that transmission is shared with everything on this platform. So the A-Class, when it was here, all the CLAs, the GLB, and the GLA all get this transmission. So they don't have a transverse torque converter automatic, which we'll talk about more in just a second. And then in this case, you've got 4MATIC all-wheel drive. It's a front-biased all-wheel drive system on the CLA35. And then the only other performance thing that AMG did with the 35 in particular is they upgraded the radiator. They said it helps keep the engine cooler, more consistent temperatures under sustained high-load driving. So if you're beating on the car on back roads, if you ever do a track day, that sort of thing where you need peak thermal efficiency for a long period of time, 20, 30, 40 minutes, they've got an upgraded radiator up here that will help. Now, in day-to-day driving, you're not going to notice that. It doesn't much matter, but it is nice that they took a little bit of a look to see, hey, what can we do for the people who are driving enthusiasts who didn't want, couldn't afford, whatever, the full-on 45. Let's make the 35 just a little bit better. So there's a few other differences here in the interior. I'll show you those, and then let's get behind the wheel and talk about how this thing is to drive. All right, so first things first, with all of this, we're gonna have to just do a little acceleration test here. So let's go ahead and put my foot down in it. This is good acceleration. It is not neck snapping. It's interesting. 302 horsepower you'd think would be a little more punchy. It's punchy off the line. That's how the turbo is set up to deliver power and torque and all that. It feels good. It feels very strong. But it's not going to be melt your face sort of power. That's going to be the CLA45 by contrast. Now, as far as the ride and handling qualities of this car, obviously we're on the highway right now, but I have driven this on some back roads, and it does nicely on back roads. When you throw it through an off-ramp, that sort of thing, it feels good. The steering is pretty dialed in. I think it's got nice weight. It's got nice feel. It's got plenty of grip from the tires. It's on some Bridgestone tires, and that 4MATIC does work to just kind of keep you going, and it's all fairly predictable. What I don't like is the suspension setup. This is not an adaptive suspension. This has been kind of a critique of these cars for a while now, where they handle well, but that comes a little bit at the expense of a comfortable ride, a compliant ride, really, you know, in the city in particular, but also just on the highway, you know, hitting expansion joints. And the thing that you notice if you're pushing the car, if you get an expansion joint or something else that wants to throw the car and upset the chassis just a touch, it wants to jump in the lane, if you will. So it's just an interesting thing with the way they've got this set up with a fixed rate suspension, and you can only do so much. The adaptive suspensions are going to be better, but you know, it adds cost and complexity, and if they're trying to keep this the most simple one that they have, the most affordable model that they have, then kind of is what it is. Steering, like I said, feels pretty good, so it is a good car. It's a fun car to kind of push. It's playful enough. I do like that, and I think the stiffer suspension keeps it feeling a little playful, which is kind of fun. It's just when you get into the city, you know, we're going into DC now, it does feel rough in the city. Now, braking, as we're dealing with brakes both from higher speeds and at city speeds, is good. The pedal, to me, could have a touch more initial bite, just a tiny bit, but it does feel good. It's got nice, confidence-inspiring travel all the way through, and even on a harder stop, if you have to really go for the brakes, it does feel, it's got good feel to it. It gives you a lot of confidence, which is what you want in brakes. And I've been whiny about Mercedes-Benz brakes on their electric cars, so it makes me happy that the brakes on the combustion cars are, at least in this one, feel pretty good. Now, the transmission, you know, I mentioned I can pop it into manual mode here and shift it myself, and that's all fine and good. But this being a DCT, it responds really well. It's, again, great at higher speeds. If you're on a back road or something, it is plenty good. Where it is less good is, again, in city driving. And the issue I kind of have with this car is that this is a small car. This is what you might buy if you're a city dweller that wants a fun car, but you want it to be smaller so you can park it anywhere, you know, easy to maneuver and all that good stuff. And parallel parking with this transmission is really difficult. It's not great. You have to be really careful and, you know, just tiny bumps of the pedal because it engages the clutches a little. It's just a little slow. It's kind of a DCT thing, you know, the Volkswagen Audi DSGs do it too, the Hyundai DCTs do it, but it's one of those things that just, I think this would be a better car with a torque converter automatic in it, and modern torque converters are so good, I don't think it would detract from the capabilities of the car otherwise. Oh, hello, E39 M5. Hello. Of course, all these ding-dongs are trying to go to a Nats game. Take public transit if you're going to a baseball game around here, FYI. Otherwise, driving this thing, like I said, I like the seats. They're very comfortable. They've got plenty of adjustability, and, you know, having that roll-out thigh bolster is really nice. I do like the steering wheel for the sake of the thickness of it and kind of how the controls are laid out. I do like the little AMG Performance dial-y, screeny button things. I'm sure they've got an actual name. I know they do. I just don't remember it because it's Pride weekend and my brain is fried. But I like these, and they're easy to use. You can customize them. That is cool. The dual layer touch sensitive strips on the steering wheel I don't like. This is kind of proliferating across the Mercedes-Benz lineup now, and I don't like these. They are just kind of irritating to use on the move. And, you know, it works, but I don't see how this solved a problem. So I don't love that part of the steering wheel. But otherwise, the car is good to interact with. All the controls are where you think they need to be. You've got physical climate controls, which, yay, we love that. That's fantastic. I like having the volume roller right here. It makes life really easy. And then, you know, still physical controls for your windows, your seats, your headlights, your parking brake, all that good stuff. And a nice, easy button for the auto start-stop, which I don't mind leaving the auto start-stop on. Having this 48-volt system makes it a little smoother. I want it back on. There we go. It makes it a little smoother, and, you know, that's part of the benefit of the whole system. I still don't love our auto start-stop as a concept, just because I think it adds a little roughness and things that I just don't know how much the benefit is there versus the experience you get. But, you know, having a system like this is certainly better than what they've been doing before, not just Mercedes, but everybody. So these 48-volt systems are certainly a nice benefit, if you will. And then otherwise, you know, visibility in here is pretty decent. The room in the front seats is really good. The back seat is really tiny. They do call this a coupe, like I mentioned, just because of the shape of the body, and you should think of it that way for the sake of backseat passengers. It is going to be tight in here for backseat passengers, whether you're a taller driver or not. Other thing that they did upgrade for 2024 is with the Burmester sound system. They added Dolby Atmos to it, which if you've got Apple Music or Tidal and you can support playing Atmos, it is a slight upgrade. Burmester is generally very good in Mercedes products anyway, and I do think that the sound system in here is good. It is not the level of Burmester that I've experienced in the higher end Mercedes products, which is expected because this is, of course, the CLA. So it is, it will be more than fine for most people listening to most music, and of course, you know, the best way to play your music is going to be Apple Music or Tidal, lossless, through a cable, not through wireless CarPlay. You can do USB as well. And so then that begs the question, would you rather have this or something like the Audi S3, the BMW M235i Gran Coupe, or I don't know, an Acura Integra Type-S? Those are all kind of the same size. They kind of play in the same sandbox for power and for price point and size and all that good stuff. I think this has a little more pep and personality to it than the Audi does, and I think it looks better than the BMW, so those are kind of easy choices for me to make. I really have enjoyed driving this car, and I really liked the platform made, the A220. I drove an A220, like no options car, black on black with nothing, back in 2020 or 2021, and even that I thought was a fun car. So I do enjoy driving these. I think despite the things I mentioned with, you know, city driving like this with the DCT and the suspension, it's still a pretty nice package overall. The issue is now the Integra Type-S exists, and I think that is generally even a little bit better package, and you can get it with a manual transmission, which is what I would want to do. But if you don't want a manual, this is a great option. If you want all-wheel drive, this is a great option. The Acura doesn't offer it, and they shouldn't, frankly. But this is a nice package. It's not the world's best city car. That's the only real complaint. But I think it fills a niche. I think it has a personality, which I like. I've said that a couple times, and it stands out to me because I think a lot of German cars don't. They end up being so perfect that they lose out on what makes a car entertaining for the enthusiast. And, you know, enthusiasts, to me, we just like imperfection that we call character and personality. So this has that. And then the other question too is, would you go up to the CLA35? Because then you do get some of those things I mentioned where you can have, you know, the active exhaust and the adaptive dampers, and it's the hand-built engine, and it's another 100 horsepower and all that. And yeah, that would be the bonkers one. I don't know if that's how I would spend my money. I think this is plenty fun as it is, and it's a better price point. These are kind of mid-50s, so you know, that might be where I want to land. But if you want something even crazier, I love the fact that it exists. I think it would be an even more fun option, but of course you're going to pay for it. So that is a quick little spin with the updated 2024 Mercedes-AMG CLA35. That name is just, oh, it's a lot. I'm used to calling everything AMG at the end because that's what they did a long time ago. But in any case, that is it for this CLA35. Thank you so much for coming along. As always, let me know what you think in the comments, if you would buy this or the Acura or the Audi or the BMW. As always, stay safe, be well, give us a follow here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Come to some of our events in person, join the community online at outmotorsports.com, and we'll see you for the next one.